Okay, in today's video I'm doing something different. I'm baking bread. So I'm baking some sourdough bread. Baking something that I took up about 12 months ago, and after I mastered making soda bread on a plain white pan, I've now progressed to sourdough bread. So it's 6 o'clock in the morning, and yesterday evening I prepared a sourdough loaf dough, insofar as I have a sourdough starter. I mixed up the dough and the starter, and I've had it fermenting overnight. So I did it yesterday evening around 7 o'clock. It's been fermenting overnight, and that's what's in this bowl. So this stage now is basically I take it out and I knock it back. That is, I knock the air out of it, and then I'm going to place it in a Banneton basket. The Banneton basket is this basket, and I'm going to let it proof in that basket for anything between 5 and 8 hours, and after that then I'm going to bake. So as I say, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Once I get this out of this, I just knock the air out of it, which I'm doing there now. I'm going to place it in the Banneton basket, and I am going to let it proof for, as I say, anything between 5 and 8 hours. I may put it in the fridge to proof, I may not, but all I do for now is knock back the dough, knock the air out of it, and put it in the basket. I want to shape it a little bit now, shape it into a ball, and I'm going to leave it then in the basket. The whole idea of this is to give the bread some structure. The outer surface, which ultimately is going to become the crust, you're trying to give it some structure. So I'm actually going to just shape it first into a round ball, and then I'm going to leave it here on this worktop for about half an hour. I'm going to put a little bit of the flour on it, on the top of it. I'm going to put some in the basket as well. Flour in the basket is to stop the dough from sticking to the basket when I put it in. So for the moment I'm just going to leave that there, and I'm going to let it rest. I'm going to let the dough rest and let the gluten rest for about half an hour. And then I'm going to shape it again. I'm going to give it a final shape, and I'm going to stick it in the Banneton basket and then leave it. Okay, it's been half an hour since I shaped the dough, and as you can see there, it's ready to go into the Banneton basket. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to shape it and put it into the basket, and leave it then to proof for anything between 3 and 8 hours. So I'll throw it in there. As you can see, it's in the basket, ready to proof, and I'm just going to get a little bit of flour and sprinkle it. I'm going to get a little bit of flour now and just sprinkle it on the top of the bread, of the dough rather. Hopefully it'll become bread. So that's the dough in the Banneton basket. The whole idea of this basket is that it shapes and holds the bread, or the dough rather, in shape. So what I'm going to do with that now is I'm going to stick it in the fridge and leave it to prove. I'll probably leave it for 8 hours. And just in terms then of the length of time that it takes, you can actually fit in the making of the bread and so on into your daily life with a little bit of organisation, because when I stick it in the fridge now, I'm going to do about my daily work. As it were, I'm off today as it happens because it's the 31st of December. But I'm going to go for my usual morning run. I'm going to do a bit of work and I'll come back then in due course whenever I need to. So I'm going to just place this in the fridge now and come back to it later on. Time now is 6:45 AM, so it's 6:45. So I'll stick it in the fridge and we'll take it from there. Just going to cover it with a tea towel, just to stop it from drying out. I think that's the idea of that. So I'm going to stick it in the fridge there now. So it's 6:45 in the morning, and as I say, it's going to prove away there now, and hopefully we'll end up with a nice loaf of sourdough bread. I started making bread about 12 months ago, and I would strongly recommend not making bread as such, but certainly for anybody to have some sort of a hobby or a pastime, especially if they're in any sort of a stressful job. But even if they're not in a stressful job, we're all in stressful jobs to a certain extent. Everybody sees their own circumstances as particularly stressful, and that's understandable. But that's why it's good from a health perspective, from a mental health perspective, to actually have an interest or a hobby outside of your work, so that you do take some time out and you can sort of turn your mind or your attention to something else. And I must say that I enjoy making the bread. I really enjoy it. I'm not an expert by any means, but I do enjoy it. I have progressed up to the sourdough bread at this stage. It's very nice. And if you do start eating real bread, baking real bread and eating it, you get it very hard to go back to what passes for bread in the supermarkets. So it's that element of it as well. And obviously to take a nice, fresh, warm loaf out of the oven at 12:30, 20 to 1, when you're having your lunch at 1 o'clock, is very, very agreeable. So anyway, we'll come back to this later on. Okay, it's about 4.5 hours later now. It's 11:15. So I put the dough into the Banneton basket in order to proof for this morning. So it's been proving for about 4.5 hours. I know by the size of it, it's got big enough, and I know there's a test you can do called a poke test. You poke the dough, and depending on how quickly it responds or it springs back, then it's ready to go or it's not. I think this is ready to go, but I'm going with it now anyway. So what I do now is I take it out of the basket and I place it on some parchment paper, and I slash it then with this knife, with this, it's called a lame or a grignette or something like that. I slash the top of it. We'll do that now, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so this is going to be the loaf. This is essentially the dough that's been proving. Okay, so I'm going to just adjust this camera. I'm going to slash it now with this knife, and the next thing is I've been preheating a Pyrex dish, or a Dutch oven as it's called. It's basically a Pyrex dish, and I'll show it to you now. So this is the Pyrex dish that I'm going to be baking the bread in. I've been preheating the oven at 400 or 250 degrees Celsius, which is as hot as you're going to get most, which is as hot as you're going to get most conventional ovens. So, as I say, we've been preheating it, or I've been preheating it. I'm going to take off the lid now. It's very, very hot. I'm just going to drop in the sourdough, which is ready to go. I'll put the lid back on. Back into the oven there now at 250 degrees Celsius. You need as much heat as you can possibly get, generally, because that's what creates the oven spring. In other words, that dough will be transformed into a beautiful, hopefully anyway, a beautiful risen sourdough loaf, a wholemeal sourdough loaf, once the heat hits it, and it's going to experience oven spring, what's called oven spring. I'm going to bake it for 30 minutes in the Pyrex dish that you saw there, and then I'm going to take the lid off and bake it for a further 15 minutes in order to just caramelize the crust. But the idea of the Pyrex dish is that the moisture that's in the dough is trapped within the sealed container, and it's a great way to bake. Professional bakers in their bakeries will use steam, a lot of steam in their ovens. I don't have a steam oven or a way of injecting steam in, but for the ordinary person with an ordinary kitchen oven, a Pyrex dish is perfect, or any sort of a dish is perfect, provided it's big enough obviously to contain the dough, and provided it can retain the moisture that's in the dough, because when it does, it cooks beautifully, it expands beautifully, you get great oven spring, and then all you have to do is take the lid off for the last 15 or 20 minutes and you get a beautiful crust. So it's in the oven now, it's 250 degrees C. I'm going to leave it there for half an hour, then I'm going to take the lid off, leave it for another 15 minutes, and then we'll take it out and take a look at it and see is it acceptable. Okay, we'll just take a look there after the 30-minute stage of the video, or 30-minute stage of the baking rather. And I've just taken the lid off, and you see there in the oven, it's coming along very, very nicely indeed. Happy with that, so I'll give it another 15 minutes. Give it another 15 minutes. Okay, I'm back again, and the bread is just finishing off there now, so I'm going to take it out. So I've given it 30 minutes at 220 or 30 degrees, and turned it down then with the lid off for about 15 minutes at about 200 degrees, and let's take a look and see what it's like. Here's the bread, looks fairly good. Just take it out now. That's the bread. So it's a wholemeal sourdough. Wholemeal sourdough. That's it there. So that's the wholemeal sourdough bread, and as you can see there, it's looks pretty nice. Looking forward to that now for the lunch. Hope you got something out of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any interest in seeing any further videos about bread making or how to bake a loaf of bread, I'd be happy enough to do one. But that just gives you an insight, I suppose, into a pastime or a hobby that I've developed over the last 12 months or so, which I find useful in terms of de-stressing, and also obviously in creating something that's edible and very, very agreeable. And it's nice to be bringing bread to work, sandwiches to work every day that I've baked myself, which I know is fairly good quality and very, very tasty. So hope you enjoy it. If you do, give it a thumbs up down below, and you may be interested in subscribing to my YouTube channel, which deals with all aspects of Irish law and Irish business. This video is obviously a little bit off-piste, but I make videos when I feel like it, and this one is a little bit off-piste, so hope you enjoy it in any event. You might give it a thumbs up down below if you do, and if you want to see any more videos of this nature of baking bread and that sort of thing, let me know. Just make a comment down below in the box down below, and I'll have a look at it. I do a nice Irish soda bread and a very, very nice simple white pan, and I can give the details of the recipe and instructions and so on if you're interested. Thanks a lot.